And so for me, when I hear those arguments, I have a rebuttal to those in a way that I would say, he's not claiming to be Hashem, he's claiming to be a shiliach of Hashem.
Right. So I consider that more problematic, and this may come as a shock to many people. I think that's a lot more problematic than him claiming to be God himself.
Why?
Because the notion of dualism or pluralism, saying that there's many different powers apart from God by saying that, oh, he's not God, he's just a son of God, or God has opponents. If someone claims to be the earthly representation of the God of Israel, you're still talking about one God. But now you're saying that he has shluchim. He has all these messengers that have free will, that also, like from a dualistic perspective, could fight against God pertaining to Satan, or at least the Christian understanding of Satan. That's a lot more problematic than remaining theologically a pure monotheist. This is why, I don't know why Christians go out of their way to say, no, I don't believe Jesus is God, but he's the Son of God. You believe he's divine, but you don't believe that he's the God of Israel.
Absolutely. And I gleaned this from Torah.
In my opinion, in the most respectful way I could say it, I think that makes you a polytheist.
How? Okay, so you did a video not too long ago where you had made the statement that the Torah itself does not say that one has to be a monotheist in the way that we
Right, correct.
How is that?
I didn't say you were an idolater, by the way.
Yeah, no. I mean, hey, Tovia Singer said I'm not, so it must be written in stone I'm not.
Okay.
I'm joking.
Now, to give you like a little history on how Rabbinic Judaism has viewed the notion of believing in Jesus as God, or even believing in Christianity, there's a notion called shituf. Now, this idea was really developed by Tosfos on what's the status of people who believe that God is still all-powerful and it's their God. In other words, people who worship the God of Israel but believe that he has parts or partners. So Ashkenazim believe that Christians are allowed to believe this because they're not liable for the Yisur, for the prohibition of shituf, of believing that God has partners. Now, Sephardim didn't agree with this. The Rambam didn't agree with it. The Rambam believed that Christianity was full idolatry, while traditional Ashkenazi Judaism did not believe that Christianity was idolatry for non-Jews, but it did believe that it was idolatry for born Jews. And then there's another opinion, which is the opinion of the Meiri, and those who think like him, that Christianity in itself was not idolatry either way, even for Jews tradition to believe that, as long as they're not going against Torah. Kabbalistic Judaism, it doesn't really split up God into parts as much as it attributes redemptive qualities to rabbis. Well, this notion of, in my opinion, of splitting God into 10 emanations, 10 sephirot, is more of a modern form of Kabbalah. I think the more traditional form is, I think, personified by a statement mentioned by the last Lubavitcher Rebbe, that he says that a Rebbe is the atzmut in a guf. He's a divine essence in bodily form. So that's kind of similar to how I think Christians view Jesus. As a matter of fact, that's what it says in the book of Colossians, that in him dwells the fullness of God in bodily form. So that statement, although I disagree with it, and I think it's philosophically foolish, at least according to how the Rambam understood it, I see that a lot less problematic than to say there are smaller gods with little g's, I guess one could say, that have free will and in some way fight against God in many cases, like with demons and with the notions of Satan, or even in Judaism, the idea of Samael, the king of the demons. And I don't know why many Messianics and Hebrew rooters make this point like, oh no, we in some way align ourselves with the Jewish community because we don't believe Jesus is God, but we just believe he's the Son of God. So that we believe that there's a separate entity. They're almost affirming dualism and a spiritual form of pluralism in the heavens. Like there's many powers that in many cases, like I said, even fight against God or disagree with God or exist outside of God, instead of saying, no, just like God appeared to people in Tanakh in bodily form. I mean, this clearly appears to a certain extent that the Rambam had to step in and say that any time that a prophet sees something like that occur, it happened in a dream or in a vision, and it's not literally occurring, because that would be a limitation of God. I mean, by the simple fact that the Rambam has to make the statement is because someone who reads Tanakh straight through could come to that understanding. And this is why in the Duties of the Heart, Rabbi Bachya ben Pekude, he states that God would not hold someone accountable by literally understanding a statement in Torah or in Tanakh that could lead him to believe that God has an arm or a leg, right? It says that God brought Israel out of Egypt with a strong arm, right? I mean, what does that mean? Does God have an arm? However, we know that the Rambam does say that anyone who attributes any type of corporealism to God, him having body parts, not necessarily basar v'dam, like flesh and blood, but just a shape, he says that they lose their chelik in olam haba, they're sharing the world to come. This is something that I don't hear people mention much.